Today, we're going to look at one of the most counterintuitive and honestly one of the most powerful strategies in all human history. It's a method that took a shy, deeply insecure lawyer and turned him into a force that could bring an entire empire to its knees. So how on earth did he do it? Well, he learned to turn stillness into a weapon. This right here, this is the key to everything. This one idea completely rewrites the rules of power. It suggests that real strength isn't about aggression or force, but about having this unshakable internal calm. And there was one moment, one specific event in history where this radical idea was put to the ultimate test. And that moment was the Salt March. So picture it, the year is 1930. The British Empire has India locked down with overwhelming force. Any kind of normal, conventional revolution would be crushed in an instant. But Gandhi, he chose a totally different battlefield, the soul of his oppressor. Just try to imagine this scene. You have this 60-year-old man, he's frail but incredibly determined, and he just starts walking. For 24 straight days, he and his followers trek 240 miles to the Arabian Sea. The entire world is watching them. And why? What's the big finale? So he can get to the shore, bend down, and pick up a tiny, glistening handful of natural salt. It was a simple act of defiance against the British salt tax. It was quiet, it was peaceful, and it was one of the most dangerous acts of rebellion the world had ever seen. Now, what's so wild about this is the sheer imbalance of power, right? I mean, at least on the surface. On one side, you've got the biggest military, the largest colonial power on the planet, and their whole world runs on the logic of force. And on the other side, you've got this one man who has rejected all of that. His only weapon is a vow of nonviolence and this logic of stillness. It was the ultimate David and Goliath story, and Gandhi was betting everything on a completely new kind of weapon. He called this weapon Satyagraha, which roughly translates to truth force. It's this systematic belief that absolute stillness, that refusal to react with anger or with violence, is actually the highest form of strength. It's literally about weaponizing the truth. But this incredibly profound philosophy, well, it didn't just appear out of thin air. It was forged in the fire of some deep personal humiliation. You see, to really understand the man who could stand so calmly in front of an empire, we have to meet the man he used to be. A man who was completely, and I mean completely, paralyzed by his own fear. And that is not an exaggeration. Early in his career, Gandhi stood up in a courtroom to cross-examine a witness. And the words they wouldn't come out. His heart was pounding, his mind went totally blank, and he was so terrified that he just sat back down in complete silence, defeated before he even started. He didn't just fail, he fled. He literally ran from the courtroom, just consumed by shame. This is the guy who would one day speak for hundreds of millions of people, and at this moment, he couldn't even speak for one single client. And believe me, this wasn't the last of his humiliations. Later on, while he was working in South Africa, he was physically thrown off a train for no other reason than the color of his skin. He was just left there, all alone, shivering through the entire night on this dark, cold station platform. It was a moment of just profound cruelty and powerlessness. And it was right there, in the cold and in the dark, that a fundamental change started to happen inside him. So, here's the crucial turning point. Instead of getting angry and seeking revenge, he turned inward. He began to build what he would later call an internal fortress of self-discipline. He figured, okay, if his voice was too weak to shout, then his soul would have to become so strong that it could be heard in its quietness. This crucible of failure gave birth to a revolutionary new way of thinking. And this is just a brilliant illustration of how his biggest weaknesses actually became the foundation for his greatest strengths. He took all that friction, all that pain from those early humiliations, and he used it to create the philosophy of truth force. At the very heart of his philosophy was a totally radical, new definition of what strength even is. He came to believe that violence is just a shortcut. It's a tool for people who aren't strong enough to endure. Real strength, he argued, isn't in your fists or in your weapons. It's an indomitable will, something that simply cannot be broken. He called this active nonviolence ahimsa, and this part is absolutely critical. Ahimsa is not passive. It is not weakness. It is an active, it is a courageous, and it is a strategic tool of the strong. The whole purpose is to be so unwavering in your peace that you actually force your oppressor to finally confront the ugliness of their own violence, to make them see their own shadow. And all of this led to his core operating principle, radical self-governance. The idea is simple, but it is so profound. The only revolution that truly matters is the one that happens inside of you first. If you can master your own fear, your own anger, your own ego, then external powers, even a massive empire, they have nothing left to hold on to. You become ungovernable. But he didn't just think this, he lived it every single day. So, okay, how do you actually turn a philosophy like this into a reality? Well, Gandhi did it through a really rigorous, almost monk-like system of daily discipline. This wasn't about theory for him, it was all about practice. Two of his most famous habits were the day of silence and his daily time with the spinning wheel. And these were not just quirky personality traits, okay? They were deliberate, strategic tools he used to build and maintain that internal fortress we were talking about. Every single Monday, without fail, Gandhi took a 24-hour vow of silence. He wouldn't speak a single word. He used this time to, as he put it, cleanse his thoughts, to quiet all the noise from the outside world, so he could actually hear his own conscience. He called it an internal audit, a way to make absolutely sure that his own ego wasn't the thing driving his strategy. And then there was the spinning wheel, for at least an hour every day. Even when he was in the middle of the most intense political negotiations, he would sit and spin cotton. Can you imagine the rhythmic hum of that wheel? The feel of the wood and the fiber. He called this high-energy stillness, because while his hands were in this constant rhythmic motion, his mind became this calm, unshakable center. And this is where the story really comes full circle. This relentless system of discipline, it paid off in a way that transformed not only Gandhi himself, but the very nature of human conflict forever. I mean, just think about this arc for a second. The man who fled a courtroom, completely paralyzed by fear, became the man who could calmly dictate the terms of a nation's freedom. The stuttering, insecure lawyer became the father of the nation, a great soul. He didn't overcome his fear by getting louder. He overcame it by becoming stiller. His ultimate legacy is just monumental. He proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that moral authority is the world's ultimate currency. He single-handedly destroyed this centuries-old myth that might makes right, showing that a peace that refuses to be passive can bring a global superpower to its knees. And that's where his story becomes a lesson for all of us. So, let's bring this all home. Gandhi's journey is way more than just a history lesson. It's actually a practical guide for how to navigate a world that's just filled with noise, outrage, and aggression. So what does this mean for you? In a world that is constantly demanding that you react, that's pulling at your attention, triggering your anger. Gandhi's method teaches us that true power isn't found in how loudly you can shout, but in how still you can become when everyone else is shouting. So I want you to think about finding your own Monday vow. Look, it doesn't have to be a full 24 hours of silence. Maybe it's just putting your phone away for an hour to just think. Maybe it's choosing not to jump into that pointless online argument. Where is one place this week that you can choose silence over ego, a pause over a reaction? Where can you choose the difficult but rewarding path of peace over the easy path of anger? That right there, that's your internal audit. Because when you master yourself, the world really has no choice but to adjust to you, not the other way around. I want to leave you with this final thought. Strength comes through stillness. And your peace is the code for your power.